I don't love you. Yuki reeled back and when? I said I don't love you. His normally spoken lover now spat the words at him, venom. What? Listen, we can talk this out. She raised her palms to her face and wiped away. No, there's nothing to talk about. I don't want to see you anymore. Oh dang. Rip you. Looks... Yuki looked around. There were a dozen animal corpses strewn at his feet. Whoa. Bro. Why? Bottles containing half-finished potions were everywhere. Some were at his desk for testing. Others lay broken on the floor. I just wanted to save Mother. I didn't want her to die. Tears streamed down his face as he looked at the chaos around him. I mean, I don't see tears. It looks more like a blush. Where did I go wrong? Well, it might have been the corpses on the floor. That's where you went. Yuki stared out the window. Ever since he left civilization 10 years ago, it always felt like he was floating through life. He looked around his tiny cabin. Although it was small, it was all he needed. There was a time when he held greater ambition, but... Stop thinking about it. Yuki walked to the corner of the room where his makeshift kitchen was. He took a rusty brown kettle from the cupboard and set it on the stove. Reaching down, he removed the metal lid from his wooden water pot. Then he took a cup and poured some water into the kettle. He lifted his hands over the kettle. Ah, you're don't catch me with that. I'm not reading that. I couldn't even pronounce that even if I tried. The water started to boil. Yuki's mouth twitched in a slight smile. Using magic was one of the few things that made him happy. But Yuki could have sworn he heard a cat meow. That's definitely not my imagination. Yuki quickly walked across his cabin and opened the door. Why is a cat here? He felt a strange shiver down his spine, as if someone was watching him. I can't just leave this poor thing here. Yuki looked down at the shivering kitten in his arms. Maybe there's still some good I can do? He gently cradled the kitten and stood up. After returning to the cabin, he laid the cat down on the desk. Been a long time since Yuki had to use any sort of healing magic, but that wasn't going to stop him. He took a deep breath and tried to remember the important spell. I'm not pronouncing that either, bro. No, that won't be enough. Yuki took a deep breath and tried to compose himself. Scenes from the past flashed in his... No, you know better than this, Yuki. Yuki closed his eyes and took several deep breaths. He opened his eyes and looked down at the cat, this time with more clarity. Yuki channeled a significant amount of magic through his palms, but nothing happened. Huh? The cat writhed in pain, looking no better than earlier. What is going on? Maybe it's still not strong enough? He took a deep breath and tried again. It was the strongest healing spell he knew, yet it still did nothing. The cat writhed in pain, but he couldn't stop now. After a deep breath, he pushed more magic through his palms. He He felt a burning sensation run through his veins, but grit his teeth and continued. Despite the excruciating pain, Yuki pushed harder. He completed the spell and opened his eyes. The cat still lay motionless on the desk. Yuki felt frustration bubble in his chest. He knew there was nothing he could do now that wouldn't make it worse. Then he suddenly remembered. Crap, the kettle. He ran back to the kitchen to inspect the damage. Since he didn't close the kettle, the water boiled over and burnt the countertop. What a mess. He grabbed the washcloth and began to wipe away the messy burns. Thankfully, he fireproofed the kitchen, ensuring the damage wasn't worse. Yuki jolted. That sound. He ran back to the desk and saw the kitten sitting up straight, looking completely unhurt. You're alright. Yes, I am. Thank you, mortal. Yuki jumped in shock. You can talk? Is there something so wrong with that? No, it's just that I'm pretty sure animals don't talk. Except for guardian spirits. But they're supposed to be fictional. Yuki shook his head. So, since you can apparently talk, would you mind telling me what got you here in the neck of the woods? Yuki was fully certain that there were no animals living near him. His magic wards made sure. But recently, he'd been slacking off, which might have explained why there was a cat. I was looking to help humans, but they just called me a monster and attacked me. That cat looked at Yuki curiously. But you're not like most mortals, are you? Yuki shuddered under the cat's scrutinous gaze. He struggled to formulate words. It had been a decade since he spoke to a human. How was he going to talk to a cat? The cat continued. My name is Aurelia Cornelius IV, but you can call me Aurelia. You've earned the honor. The honor? Yes, as a guardian spirit, I have the duty to grant one true desire of the mortal that saved me. Is that so? In that case, I'll ask for... I'm pretty sure infinite wishes are not a thing. Eternal youth seems so vain, and unlimited money is greedy. You're not gonna give me any of these, huh? Pretty sure there's no way you'll give me any of these. The eternal youth. I'll have eternal youth. What a typical wish. You realize that when you die all alone in this tiny shack, it doesn't matter if you look gorgeous while doing it. Hey! Yuki knew her words were true, but that didn't stop them from stinging his heart. But you were supposed to grant my wish. Aurelia shook her head. I didn't know it was possible for a cat to look so disappointed, but Aurelia pulled it off well. Although I can grant human desires, there are 2 clauses. The desire must be within my power. Although I'm really strong. Yuki coughed. I still have limits. And the second is... Yuki looked at Aurelia in anticipation. The second is... The human can't decide the wish. A loud gust suddenly knocked the breath out of Yuki's lungs. What's happening? He looked around, but his cabin was gone. Instead, he saw himself floating in the sky, the wind wrapping around him. Where? This is your mind, human. Clearly, it is true. Yuki felt the most inner, vulnerable parts of himself coming to the surface. No, stop. Stop right now. Yuki frantically waved his arms around, trying to stop the onslaught of emotions threatening to... Aurelia looked almost sympathetic, but didn't stop. She sighed and looked Yuki in the eye. Your greatest desire is in my power, but it's going to be troublesome. What are you? The edges of Yuki's vision faded, and the world went. Yuki felt dizzy and confused. Where am I? He looked around. He was sitting under a large shady tree. In the corner of his eye, he saw college students hurriedly walking. Some were casting low-level magic spells, causing haphazard accidents. Others were frantically scribbling through notebooks. It was a familiar sight. Definitely something Yuki knew by heart. This is the Ventnor Academy of the Elite? It was the greatest post-secondary education institute in the nation, if not the world. But most importantly, it was where us. But Yuki noticed something in the center of the campus, more accurately, something missing. That was where his thoughts were interrupted by approaching footsteps. He looked up at the sound. Are you alright? I stared at the woman in front of me, shocked. Quinn? You seem a bit unwell. Do you need to go to the infirmary? Yuki looked up at the face he hadn't seen in a decade, yet would never forget it was Quinn, the one he loved so dearly. He reached into a pocket hidden in the side of her skirt and pulled out a handkerchief. You can use this if you need to. Her smile was nervous, but clearly she wanted to help. It was what drew Yuki in years ago, what made him fall in love. But now, all it brought him. Yuki stood up and dusted his lap. I'm fine. He forced a tight smile. Thanks. He ignored her concerned pleas and walked towards the center of the campus. There was a large statue. Some guy Yuki never bothered learning the name of. Most notably, the large guardian around it he made with Quinn as a sign of their enduring happiness was not there. Combined with the fact that she didn't recognize Yuki. Am I in the past? Ding ding ding, you're correct. Yuki whipped his head around, trying to find the source of the voice. The people around him started whispering to each other, staring at him. He blushed, feeling embarrassed. I'm inside your head, don't you realize? Because of this, I'm stuck in the past too. How annoying. Sorry. It felt strange to be talking to a voice inside his head. Now, hurry up and get to class before things get bad. Okay. Awesome. As it is currently the first class of the year, we are beginning with a test of skill. Yuki knew exactly what this so-called test was supposed to do. Professor Chen was notorious for baiting the newcomers into doing dangerous acts to prove how unstable their minds were. Looking back, Yuki knew what a great professor he was, but at the time, he thought Dr. Chen was cowardly and weak for disrespecting power. As the bright new class of the academy, you have demonstrated your skill. Well, however, this is Ventnor. The professor narrowed his eyes. Every single student is excellent. You are not special in any way. Do you think? The classroom buzzed with the heated murmurs of the students began arguing among themselves, perfectly proving his point. Silence! Shocked, the class went quiet. In the corner of the class, were the Jewish students. They were the highest ranked students. They were not in the Magica program. They nervously took notes and observed among the students was Quinn. And that is why today we are having a test where students demonstrate their power. There are no restrictions because all of you are so weak. It is unnecessary. The students shifted uncomfortably. You fool. This is what he wants. Yuki knew he wasn't one to judge considering he had been in their position back then as well. But he couldn't help feeling a bit smug. Among the rattled students was Zeke. Yuki felt his blood boil when he saw him. It was a conditioned reflex at that point. Steve was one of those students who had everything. He was born to powerful and wealthy nobles, and had immense ability at magic, and an infuriating habit of constantly challenging Yuki to match it. Yuki took deep breaths to steady himself as the various students were called in front, one by one. Each demonstrated their unique abilities. A defiant part of it was to impress the Jewish students, who were watching in awe. After every demonstration, Professor Chen looked more and more disappointed. This frustrated the students, who began to make mistakes. The student's hair caught on fire. The student sitting down began to laugh heartily as Professor Chen cast a water spell to drench it. Tisk tisk. After several more demonstrations, some successful, most bots, Zeef's name was called. Yuki peered curiously to see what Zeef would do. Last time he had been so caught up in his own thoughts to bother about him. Zeef raised his palm forward and began moving his fingers in a complicated motion. A beautiful, intricate flower of fire danced on his fingertips. Wow. Suddenly, Zeef scrunched his eyebrows together and threw his other hand in front. The flower of fire was covered in a gorgeous icy shell. The entire class audibly gasped. Inside the icicle casing, Yuki saw the fire dancing quickly. It was truly impressive. Then Zeef winked and handed it to Quinn, who blushed and refused it. The annoyance inside him was familiar, but Yuki did his best to suppress it. I will keep it for the next time we meet. He thinks he's so smooth. Yuki would never admit it, but there was a part of him that was impressed by the gesture. Even though Yuki knew it was coming, he still felt a fizzle down his spine at the professor's next words. Yuki, then Ichio, please step forward. Yuki straightened out his clothes and walked down to the front of the lecture hall. Perform one magical action that demonstrates your abilities best. Yuki could play the part of the stupid, ambitious student and cast a powerful spell. This would be the best option to fly under the radar and not pick up anyone's suspicion. He could also refuse to do a powerful spell, instead opting for something simple. This would impress the professor and get him in his good graces, but would make him more suspicious. What should I do? Cast a basic beast spell. Yuki shook his head. He wasn't about to fall for the bait. He took a deep breath and held out his palm. After concentrating a little, a small bubble formed. It floated to the top and popped. That was my demonstration. Thank you very much. The entire class began to boo, but Yuki stayed stoic. He wasn't about to let the class of rowdy kids get him down. Professor Chen clapped his hand twice. The sound was so loud the entire class went quiet. Student, in front of us is the only student who passed the examination. Class began to whisper and murmur, but Professor Chen waved his hand and they went silent again. He paced the room. Being in control is the most important skill a magician can have. He stopped in front of Zeef, who clicked his tongue. Unfortunately, most learn it too late. In fact, in the year, its words droned on, although the spell was extremely easy. The exhaustion of the day's events caught up to him. Yuki felt his eyelids Don't sleep. But Yuki couldn't help it. As if by instinct, he caught Quinn's eyes. They were full of concern. Even now, huh? I guess I am a fool. Oh, he passed out. Oh, with a thud at that. Jeez. There was a loud thud when Yuki's body hit the floor. Oh my god, boy. Where am I? Yuki tried to open his eyes, but they felt like lead. Is he ever going to wake up? Don't say something like that. Yuki's eyes flew open. Oh, you're awake! Finally! What are you doing here? Us? We're simply here to tell you that. You were the only one who passed the test. Even though he expected it, Yuki felt a small thrill through his spine. I know. I'm glad you didn't do anything rash. Her voice was soft, but Yuki felt her relief through it. You are definitely far stronger than that. I will be keeping an eye out. Steve, don't talk like that. But it's true. He glared. There's something he's keeping from us. Yuki felt a shudder run through his body. Keep calm. Too bad, I don't need to rely on parlor tricks to show my worth. You call that a parlor trick? Yes, that's right. I did. Steve looked angry, but the pink tinting his cheeks was from more than just that. Yuki had got to him. It's infuriating. That professor does not understand what true power is. Yuki gazed up at Z from the bed. It was exactly how he thought years ago. No, I think Professor Chen has a point. Being reckless and rushing headfirst. I don't think that's the best way to do things. Steve's gaze softened at her response. Maybe, but... Looking at the two of them interact as if they were long-lost friends made Yuki's heart clench. Both of you leave? What? But you haven't recovered! I said leave. No! Yuki was shocked at her protest. He never did this in the past. Probably because he never asked her to leave. The infirmary teacher is not present. I won't let you stay alone like this. If something happens, it would be really bad. Okay. Yuki was touched, but he didn't want to admit it. I suppose I will be here as well. No one asked you to stay. As if I care. Besides, that teacher's lesson was completely unfair to begin. Power is important. He doesn't understand that. It may have been so, but Yuki truly believed that. Power's not everything. Your thinking is childish, Zeef. Power's not everything. Zeef glared. It does not matter if you believe me, childish. The truth remains the truth. Quinn smiled. I agree, Yuki. You're right. There's a lot more to life than just strength. Yeah, especially since... Yuki blushed sheepishly, Quinn giggled, and Zeus smirked. Yuki felt his eyes close. Perhaps another nap was in order. The next few weeks passed by quite uneventfully. Yuki easily breezed through all his classes, with nothing interesting of note happening. Don't look at me like that. Is this why I gave you a second life? I don't know. I didn't even ask for this. But it's what you wanted. Yuki couldn't deny her words. It was true. This was what he wanted. Don't waste it. You won't get another. Yuki spent the past few weeks doing his very best to avoid both Zeef and Quinn. He felt a grating response whenever he was around them. He walked to the bookshelf in the corner of his room and pulled out his book, Avennor's Perks. He flipped through the pages. The one I'm looking for is... Ow! Yuki flinched and dropped the book on the ground. He clenched his hand in pain. Crap, crap, crap. Instinctively, he brought up his other hand and began to cast a basic cooling spell. Instead, icicles formed outside his window. He cursed and sat down on his bed, waiting for the pain to subside. He took a deep breath. Ever since he fell on his first day of classes, Yuki's wrist was hurting. Probably since he fell right on it. After a couple months rest, he walked over to where he dropped the book and picked it up. As I was looking, Yuki flipped over to the page that read food delivery tickets. He knew he was running low, but gosh darn it. He was out of tickets. He used them all the past week. That meant he actually had to go to the cafeteria, like in person, and interact with other humans. Oh my god. Well. You sure are enjoying this. Of course I am. Have fun. Yuki grumbled and made his way to the cafeteria. Yuki got his food on a tray. He precariously held it so as not to aggravate his already painful wrist. Looking around, all the seats were taken except the ones next to Zeef and Quinn. That's what I get for showing up so late. Torn, he finally decided to sit next to... Oh, am I gonna have to make a choice? Let's just skip you that. Yep. And return. Let's sit next to Mr. Obnoxious. Thief was sitting next to a group of utter nobility. Oh, that sounds like I made a terrible choice. Yuki felt a little intimidated, but he wasn't about to be swayed. However, it appeared that the nobles were mostly conversing amongst themselves, with Zeef quietly picking at his food. Yuki sat down next to Zeef. Internally, he felt shaken, but he didn't show it. Oh, look who's here. The other noble students gave a cursory glance at Yuki before returning to their conversations. I have a name. Yuki, I know. Wow, I'm so honored. You should be. Yuki ignored Zeef and took a spoonful of soup. He hoped that it would be easy enough to eat. Unfortunately, his hand shook with discomfort still. He raised it to his mouth and drank the soup. What are you looking at? Yuki braced himself for a snarky retort. Give me your hand. What? Without another word, Zeef grabbed Yuki's hand. What are you doing? Zeef began chanting unsteadily. Yuki felt a cooling sensation on his hand as the pain began to fade away. Wow. Yuki flexed his fingers and rotated his wrist. It felt completely normal. Not bad. Zeef clicked his tongue. I helped you out, and I get a not bad. That's right. I feel a little tingle, so it's not considered good. You should be grateful. It's the only reason I helped. Because it's no fun fighting against an injured rival. Yuki chuckled and went back to drinking his soup. He could have healed the injury himself much earlier, but he was conserving his magic in case of future incidents. but Zeev clearly didn't have any such reservations. I doubt you stand a chance against me at a full strength. Zeev smirked. Oh, you should worry about yourself first. Anything on the first day of class? Never a good. We bickered over lunch. Surprisingly, Zeev wasn't as bad as I originally thought. But memories of his past life clutched his chest. He couldn't let go of them so easy. A few more weeks passed. The classes began to get a lot tougher. Considering he'd been out of college for a while, Yuki struggled to remember everything. So he found himself spending more and more time at the library. But he was there today for a very different reason. Yuki furrowed his brow in concentration as he read Lola, My First Guardian Spirit, to himself. Are you kidding me? I'm doing research. Yuki read the contents of the book to himself. It was a book about a guardian spirit who helped out a crying child in his quest for grief. Aurelia looked suspicious at the book in Yuki's hand. It was comprised mostly of colorful images and baby speak. This is why I didn't want to bother with mortals. It appears that our class prodigy has taken to reading children's books in his spare time. Yuki ignored the voice and continued reading. I said... I think I hear some wind rustling in the distance. Yuki peeked from the corner of his book to see Zeef visibly annoyed. Zeef stormed off. Yuki just shook his head. He was in the middle of something important. Oh, so this guardian spirit took him on an adventure to a land of candy where everything is made fluffy. Oh my gosh, you really are reading a child's book. That down, sir. Please. I'm not gonna educate you on guardian spirits. Just not. After he finished the book, Yuki put it down and picked up another. Although had widely differing plots, but Yuki was noting down the similarities and differences between them in a notebook. Yuki was almost finished when he looked outside. It's extremely late. Just as he was getting ready to leave, another familiar face appeared next to him. When? Yuki, what a surprise! Oh, is that the Guardian Spirit of Love series I see? Yuki blushed as he realized he had a stack of children's books next to him, but Quinn looked delighted. That was my favorite series growing up! Really? I hadn't got the chance to read that series yet, so I've been looking at others. Mind telling me more about it? Sure. So, there's this really mysterious spirit named Lola. After hearing Quinn's fantastical tale of the guardian spirits in the series, Yuki was convinced it had nothing to do with reality in any way. And then Lola does a backflip into a chocolate fountain. I think I get it. Oh, sorry, I rambled for a bit. It's fine, it's cute when you do that. The words slipped out of his mouth unwillingly, and Yuki regretted them instantly. I didn't mean it like... It's fine. Quinn was blushing furiously. I have to go. For a moment, Yuki thought about stopping her. That's what he would have done in the past. Stop her. Convince her to give him another chance, but now... I should let her think. He began to walk out when he felt a hand on his shoulder. Yuki flinched. Huh? Yuki turned around to see Zeef glaring at him. Yuki breathed a sigh of relief. Oh, it's you. Do not give me that. What? Oh, it's you. Listen, Zeef, I really don't have time for this. Sure, but you were just talking to Quinn for a while now. Yuki sighed. He knew Zeef was crushing on Quinn, so this would be troublesome. Why did you talk to her, but not to me? Huh? When I attempted to converse with you, you brushed me off, you refused to even look at me, but you had a full conversation with Quinn. It was strange that Zeke was watching their whole conversation, but also the way he was talking, it was almost as if Zeke was jealous of Quinn and not Yuki. Zeke shook his head. I suppose you will not talk to me now either. Very well. He turned on his heel and walked out the door. Yuki's mouth hung open in shock. What a surprising day. I should go home and sleep. Aurelia sat in the corner, her tail wagging in interest. A few more days passed. Yuki sat in his room working on a particularly difficult assignment. Aurelia was in the corner, curled up, and snoring loudly. But Yuki couldn't concentrate. His hands shook as he tried to read the words on his notebook. Oh. I should not have touched the sizing. Yeah, I should not have touched the sizing. Should not have touched the sizing. Where's the shift button? There we go. And leave the sizing as is. Ah, no, don't full screen it. There we go. Yuki knew from the calendar that it was the day he dreaded. After a few more hours of thoroughly unproductive work, Yuki sat the pen down on the desk. Aha. Yuki's messenger note. The one on the wall began to flash brightly. He flinched, but collected himself enough to enter. A holographic projection of Yuki's mother shone in front of him. Mother? Hello, my boy. How are you doing? Yuki stared at her. Her arms were weak and frail. She looked feeble. I'm alright. What about you? Dear, I'm afraid to say I don't have much time left. Yuki had heard this declaration before, but it still felt like he got the wind knocked out of him. Yuki clutched his stomach. Mother. Don't look so upset, dear. He knew his mother would protest to his next words, but Yuki said them anyway. I will come to see you at once. His mother's voice turned angry. No! Do you not realize how far I am? It will take you at least 3 months by sea. I won't use sea, I'll teleport. I must see you. Yuki, it's not worth it. There are no teleportation anywhere near here, so you'll still have to. I know. Yuki felt guilty for raising his voice. Tears pricked at his eye. I know, Mother. There's no point. There's nothing that can be done. Boy. Yuki felt his chest. His mother rarely called him by name. It was always my boy, but now he'll never be able to hear that sweet voice of hers again. Yuki knew that it was just a projection, but he reached his hands out to it. Mother, I love you. I love you too, my boy. I can't let you go like this. Death is not something to be feared. It should be celebrated. But, Yuki, I'm so proud of you. You managed to get a scholarship to such a prestigious school. I promise I would bring you out of that awful violence-ridden place. Mother's looked turned stern. It is not perfect, but that place is still your home. Yuki knew there was no point in arguing. He was as stubborn, if not more, than Yuki himself. He decided to drop it. He didn't want to spread their spend their last real conversation arguing. Last time we parted too bitterly. After some more conversation about various happenings in town, Mother's eyes began to droop. The connection became fuzzy. Oh, our time's up. Remember this, my boy. Something's happened for a reason. And I love you. Now, always. I love you too, Mother. And with that, the line cut. Yuki felt his eyes warm. Yuki walked over to the bookshelf next to him and pulled out Mother's amulet. He clenched it in his fist. Perhaps I can still keep that promise. Deep down, Yuki felt he should. Do we accept her death, or do we try to stop it? Trying to stop is what got him in trouble last time, isn't it? So he would be repeating his mistake. Except that death is inevitable. Maybe it was like what Mother said. Death was a vital part of the cycle of life. But even if it was inevitable, it could be delayed. That was the premise of many medicines after all. Even though he felt it wrong, nothing could stop the fire inside. Yuki sat in the classroom, nervous. It was the final class of the day. He tapped his finger on the desk. The past few weeks, he'd been researching various healing techniques. None of them said anything about terminal illnesses. He knew that from his previous life. Had read Norse, so he was researching different books this time. Still, turned up nothing. For the final grade of the year, you will have to partner with another classmate for a special assignment. The year had passed by in the blink of an eye. He clutched Mother's amulet. As long as it glowed, it was proof that she was alive. But the light was dimming. There wasn't much time. Normally, Yuki found Professor Chen's lectures interesting. Now he just wanted it to be done with. You have two options. You can partner up with another magician to create a new spell. The class went crazy with whispers. All spells that students performed were taken from old books. Sometimes they were tweaked to fit modern needs, but no one ever created their own. Professor Chen cleared his throat. But I realized that is a monumental feat, not one that many desire. As a result, there is a second option. You may partner with a student from the year's program to make a magical product. A magical product required not just the magic component, but a detailed legal contract to ensure no issues arose. In his previous life, Yuki had partnered with Quinn to make the Eternal Garden in the center of the school. It wasn't really a product that could be sold on the shelf, but they got a perfect grade anyway. This time, Yuki felt more conflicted. Quinn's attitude was very different. Since he didn't push her, she was much more spontaneous and excited, which made him feel that they may have a real chance together. On the other hand, Zeef's curious behavior drew Yuki's eye as well. Before, he had just considered Zeef a worthy rival, but now he felt something else. What should Yuki do? Yuki should be gay. That's what Yuki should do. Yuki knew he was up for a new challenge, and he knew just the person to take it on. After class, Yuki stood outside the classroom door. He watched various students shuffle out and discuss different ideas. Finally, he spotted Zeef. Zeef. Yuki? I have something to ask you. Zeef's eyes grew wide as saucers. Huh? Yuki was surprised by Zeef's reaction. It's not about a duel. Okay. Zeef's expression still didn't change. Why is he so surprised with Zeef? It's nothing personal either. Zeef's face immediately fell, but he straightened himself. Oh? Is that so? Can you explain it in proper manner? Yuki shook his head. Do you want to create a new spell together? Steve's jaw dropped in visible shock. Do you even know what you propose? Yes, unless you don't think you can do it. Particularly, Steve took the bait. Of course I can. You're the one who struggled to keep up. Yuki brought his hand to his mouth in a fake yawn. Steve scoffed. Yuki felt a smile stretch across his face. Something about Steve brought out his inner child, competitive yet immature. What are you laughing at? At your inevitable defeat? Steve took a moment to think. No one can lose in a group project. I suppose I would when you inevitably fall behind. Ew. After some more childish bickering, Yuki realized they were getting nowhere. What should the spell do? Good question. How about a massive phoenix? That does what exactly? It will be a large bird made of fire that flies. Zeef, I know what a phoenix is. Great, so there's no problem there. Yuki rubbed a hand on his forehead. What had he signed up for? Right, give me your information so we can figure out something actually doable. Steve protested, but eventually exchanged hollow note information and discussed timing. We can meet at my dorm room. That works. After splitting ways with Zeef, Yuki saw Quinn in the hallway. Yuki? Oh, hello, Quinn. Hi, I was just wondering if you had a partner for the final project. Yuki blinked. Yeah, I do. I'm partnering up with Zeef. Oh, okay then. I was just checking. Yuki could have sworn he saw sadness reflected in her eyes. Before he could say anything, she quickly scurried away. Did she want to partner with me for it? Yuki shook his head. That wasn't possible. Quinn wasn't ever so forward. I mean, he just asked you. So, technically, is forward. Just never gave her a chance to be. Over the next few days, Yuki and Zeef met up in Yuki's dorm to discuss the project. No matter how many times I visit, I find this place too narrow. Yuki rolled his eyes. Okay, Mr. Rich Guy. Zeef grumbled and settled in the chair next to Yuki. Yuki adjusted his tie. Two guys in such a tiny dorm got hot very quickly. What are you thinking, Yuki? Since we are creating a phoenix, we're not making a phoenix. Why not? Yuki rested his head in his hands. Are we going to go over this again? Not like you're any better. You don't understand. A spell that disperses healing magic over a wide range is far superior. There's already a spell for that, but it would be in the shape of a teddy bear. That's completely useless. After they argued some more, they finally decided on a compromise. A phoenix that healed over a wide range. The amount of components we would have to keep in mind. That's why we're on it together. Zeef went uncharacteristically. Since they finally agreed on the subject, Yuki smiled. This might actually work out. Yuki and Zeef sat down together and researched magic techniques. Yuki went through many different spellbooks at a rapid pace. How do you read so far? Zeef looked generally puzzled. Practice. Yuki couldn't tell him he had another decade of doing nothing but reading books in an empty cabin. Despite his best efforts to cover it up, Zeef had difficulty reading for long periods of time. Zeef? How about this? I read theoretical techniques for now, while you finish sketching possible summoning circles. Zeef sighed in relief. Alright. Zeef pulled out a paper and began to draw several intricate patterns in a flash, something he could never do. Sighing, Yuki went back to his research. A heading in the book caught his eye. magic from heartbreak. Yuki glanced over at Zeev, who was engrossed in his work. He felt his heart skip. Am I feeling something for him? From the beginning, Yuki had tried to deny his feelings for Zeev. He had tried to push them down. But now it was something he couldn't deny anymore. Looking over at his chiseled face, his beautiful eyes, then it struck Yuki. Zeev didn't care for him. He was in love with Quinn, just as he himself had been in his previous life. Yuki frowned. It was too much. He got up suddenly, startling Zeev. I'll be going for it. What? Zeev grabbed Yuki's arm. His eyes slid over to the passage. Yuki had just read, and his cheek. This is mortifying. He yanked his arm away. Sorry, I'll be going for a bit. Then Zeev grabbed Yuki's arm and pulled him closer. Yuki, listen. Yuki felt a pain in his heart. He knew that Zeev didn't love him. He was in love with Quinn. That was how it was. But when Zeev looked at him with such fire in his eyes, Yuki couldn't say. What is it? Yuki steeled his nerves and looked at Zeev right in the eyes. For a brief moment, Zeev's gaze dropped to Yuki's lips. But Zeev raised his fingers to Yuki's face and caressed it gently. Zeev's gentle touch turned into a tight grasp as he pulled Yuki's face even closer. Just so. And kissed him. Not a man of any words, are we, Zeev? Yuki's mind went blank as Zeev's lips touched his. They were soft and warm with a hint of spice on top. Yuki, close your eyes. Supposed to close your eyes. You can keep them open. Without realizing it, Yuki slid his arms around Zeev's waist and pulled them closer. Yuki felt Zeev's muscle flex under his touch and felt a rush of pleasure go straight to his head. Zeev tilted his head to deepen the kiss, and Yuki returned the gesture. Yuki began to feel lightheaded and breathless. It felt amazing, yet suddenly Zeev pushed Yuki's shoulders away, breaking the kiss. Yuki licked his lips. Missing the feeling already, Zeev's eyes hungrily traced the motion. Well then, this isn't studying. Oh. Yuki started to say something but was quickly interrupted. I love you. What? Yeah, oh, I'm sorry, Yuki, did you not realize that when he pulled you towards it? I love you. Yuki, there's just something about you that drives me crazy. Yuki felt shocked, but his brain was too fried to make any meaningful sounds. Yep, that sounds about right. But great job sounding smart there. Although he expected a snarky remark, Zeev's face held only a smile. At first, I found you infuriating. I hated everything about you. Yuki's chest tightened. Zeev immediately noticed the shift in his demeanor. Quickly, I became unable to take my eyes off you. When you were around, I could not stop looking at you. When you were gone, I was always thinking. I wanted you to be mine, and in turn, Zeev sucked in a sharp breath. I wanted to be yours. Zeev tenderly tapped his forehead to Yuki. Please. His words were so desperate that it pulled at Yuki's heartstrings. Yuki took a deep breath and steadied himself. I feel the same about you, Zeev. Zeev's eyes lit up. Really? His face showed such joy that it was impossible for Yuki to resist. He moved his hand over Zeev's and linked their fingers together. Yes, I meant it. Yuki felt his throat tighten. The words, I love you were too much at the moment. So he said over the strongest word he could manage, I care about you a lot. Zeev's eyes softened and became moist. I can't believe this. To save him from his trouble with words, Yuki gave Zeev a quick kiss on the lips. Today, you have made me the second happiest man on this planet. Second happiest? Yes, because I made you the happiest. Steve flashed his cocky smile, but it twitched with a hint of nervousness. Yuki felt his heart melt. Is this what being in love is like? Yuki sneaked into the library at night. Although the library had several magic protection locks, Yuki got through because after passing the first exam, Professor Chin trusted Yuki a lot more. Naturally, Yuki eventually found himself entrusted with the key. So nice. He went straight to the back of the library and chanted a spell. Yuki felt at ease in his lab. He went around to the spell books and flipped through them. The spells here were far more difficult, complex, dangerous than any he's done before. As if that would stop me. Final one was in a language he couldn't understand. The glyphs followed no rhyme or reason. After intense study, he realized that it was because they changed every time he opened it. Now, closed his eyes and funneled silent magic through it until it shattered. Yuki opened his eyes. The only thing remaining of the book was writing etched on the ground. It was in blood? It read, "In order to save a life, something of equal value must be sacrificed. Be prepared." Ah! The basic rules of alchemy. Equivalent exchange. Yuki slammed his fist on the table. This isn't helpful. He stared down at the fading amulet. I failed last time. It won't happen again. Am I gonna have to sacrifice Eve? Oh no. No. We don't want jail. No. Although this experiment was a failure, it wasn't the only thing occupying Yuki's mind. The next few weeks were exciting. Steve took Yuki to incredibly wild, exotic places. They went to magic shows, concerts, even live sporting arenas. Yuki and Z stumbled back into Yuki's door and grasping for air. You're crazy. Steve smirked tiredly. Not as crazy as you. Yuki collapsed on the bed and Z followed suit next to him. Move this bed, not big enough. You move. This is my dorm. Don't care. Yuki glared at Z, who was unaffected by it. So hot. Steve leaned over and kissed Yuki. Yuki felt his exhaustion melt away and leaned into the kiss. A rush of pleasure rushed to Yuki's head as he slowly broke the kiss. You're lucky I'm so forgiving. Sure. What were you thinking? Setting the statue in Main Square on fire. That was an accident. That would have never happened if I was there. Sure. Steve dragged out the whole word. Yuki pinched Steve's nose. Ow! You deserve that. My feet hurt. Steve just laughed and pulled Yuki into a kiss. Yuki obliged. He was happier than he'd ever been in his entire lifetime. Recalling the past, Yuki pulled back sharply. What's wrong? Yuki rubbed his forehead. It's nothing, sorry, just a little tired today. Steve was suspicious but didn't press the issue. If you say so. Although Yuki was incredibly happy, a sense of fear bubbled inside, but he ignored it for now. I meant it. Come here. Yuki pulled deep into a tight hug. Everything will work out, I swear. A significant amount of time passed. It was nearing the end of the year. Yuki sat down at his desk. Once again, his eyes flitted to the calendar. He tapped his foot. How much longer? Finally, the messenger wrote on his wall began to chime. Blankly, Yuki accepted it. Mother? Yuki! Yuki stared at her blankly. He had spent the last few days tired and exhausted. He couldn't muster up the energy to cry. It's going to happen soon. I'm going to pass on. I see. I do not like the look in your eye. What? Do not do anything foolish, boy. I'm not. I believe in you. You will not do anything reckless. Very well. Yuki felt miserable lying to his mother, but he didn't want her to worry. They talked for an hour about mundane things, what was happening in the village, and all the local gossip. Mother? Yuki instinctively reached out before realizing he couldn't. My boy, I love you. Yuki felt hot, tears pull up in his eyes. I love you too, always and forever. The line cut. Yuki got up from his chair and hurried. There wasn't much time left. Yuki stood in his lab. The preparations took longer than he originally expected, and his mother was about to pass in a few hours. He took a deep breath. Yuki clutched the amulet tightly in his palm. Yuki raised his hands and opened his mouth to chant. Suddenly he heard a voice call out to him. He stood in the doorway, his face flushed from Oh my gosh. Okay, so now it's him that finds us instead of Coin. Exertion. What are you doing? You complete and utter fool. Stop this madness. Yuki looked at him shocked. What are you doing here? Show your notes. You idiot, stop this, you'll die. Yuki narrowed his eyes. I knew it. You think I'm too weak to do it, right? Steve raised his fist in frustration. No, I know that this is a futile plan. Yuki felt agitated. This was supposed to be the final spell, the one that would save his mother. He glanced at Zeef. If he didn't cast the spell now, it would be too late. Yuki decided. Oh, I get to choose. Okay. Well, we're not going to be a complete and utter idiot. Yuki stared at Zeef. Finally, Yuki sighed and dropped it. Very well. Zeef rushed into the room and tightly grabbed Yuki. Can't breathe. Zeef loosened his hold on Yuki slightly. I'm so glad. Yuki looked up at Zeef, his eyes filled with tears. Zeef grabbed the back of Yuki's waist and pulled him close. Okay. Okay now. Zeef's kind words felt strange to Yuki's ears, but he accepted them. I just wanted her to live. I know. But as a magician, you should know better than anyone, Yuki. That death is inevitable. I know, of course I do. I also know that she's going to a better place and... But you wanted her to live. His eyes were teary, filled with understanding. Yuki couldn't bear to look at him, and buried his face in Zeef's chest. Zeef roughly stroked Yuki's. I love you, but you cannot die on me, okay? Zeef tried to keep his voice steady, but a tremble betrayed his desperation. You're a strange one. Shut up. Don't try to act tough. I know this is hard. Yuki began to cry. Fine. Whether you will or not, you are stuck with me forever. But let's go now, before it becomes suspicious. Zeef and Yuki left the lab. Yuki's body was physically drained, but Zeef carried him back. 5 years later, Yuki walked up the slope of... Yuki wiped the sweat off his brow. Just a little longer. Finally, Yuki arrived at the summit. He collapsed onto the ground. No, wait, I have to get something. I can stay here a little longer, though. He closed his eyes. Yuki's mother had been proclaimed dead just a few hours after the incident on the fateful day. Although Yuki couldn't make the funeral, he visited her grave immediately after the semester ended. Since the successful completion of their project, Yuki became far more interested in spells that combined practicality and flashiness. After graduation, he partnered with Zeef to start a traveling magician's act. He gained astonishing popularity, but their relationship remained mostly the same. One major aspect that remained unchanged was their competitiveness. I know I should hurry up and get the ingredient, but he wasn't used to physical activity, not that he admitted it. I'll just rest my eyes for a little while. Yuki awoke from his slumber, suddenly remembering why he was here. Oh no, it's dark. Yuki stood up hastily and glanced around. He began to rummage through the brushes. The secret ingredient to make the special phoenix should be here. But no matter how hard Yuki looked, he couldn't find it. Feeling discouraged, he turned around to walk back. Okay? Yuki! What is Zeef doing here? Yuki froze. What are you— Yuki? I'm here. Zeef didn't hear him, so Yuki had to try something different. A small fire erupted from his palm. Zeef immediately caught sight of it and rushed over. Yuki, I was so worried. Zeef grabbed Yuki in a tight hug. Can't breathe. Zeef broke the hug. I was looking for you. Yuki sighed. I was looking for the Ember of Laudia. Zeef froze. The plan to summon the Great Phoenix? Yeah. Zeef's mouth stretched into a wide smile. Why are you acting so weird? I'm not? Yuki narrowed his eyes. It is just— Zeef reached into his plant pocket and produced a small red flower. This is the Ember of Laudia. Yes, I was planning on summoning Laudia for her 5th anniversary. Don't tell me. Zeef's cocky smile told Yuki everything. That's right. I beat you to it. Yuki put his face in his hands. Not again! For the last year's anniversary, Zeef had gotten to the crystal flower first as well. Just give up already. Yuki pinned Zeef's nose. Ow! Take that! Zeef rubbed his nose. Win! Yuki huffed. Fine, what do you want? Zeef's eyes darted from side to side nervously. Yuki had a strange feeling. Then Zeef got down on one knee. Oh? Oh? No way. I want you to marry me. Yuki's brain was fried. What? You heard me. Yuki knew Zeef was using his bravado to cover up his embarrassment. Yes, of course I will, stupid. Zeef grabbed Yuki in a tight hug and— I know. You. Zeef cut him off with another kiss. Finally, Zeef released him, panting. Just so you know, this isn't the end of your part of it. What? I thought it was. You thought that was it? Oh no. Oh no. No, no, no. Zeef looked at— I don't think you can get off that way. Yuki gulped, his heart pounding loudly. Hidden in the bush, Aurelia yarned. Yes, Aurelia, the cock blocker. Humans are stupid. But isn't that what makes them special? I love it. Aurelia just basically cock blocks you from actually seeing what the end would be.